Humanity Matters.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Dr. Susanne Bleiberg Seperson, and on today's episode of Antisemitism at the United Nations and in Society, on HMTV, my special guest is Danyal Khan, the founder of American Peace Committee. He's a special guest. He will join me for a conversation today about anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. So let's start. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you grew up?
Of course, and thank you, Susanne, for having me here.
My pleasure.
My name is Dan Khan. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was born in Kashmir, which is a little north of Pakistan, and I was born in a tiny mountain village with a population of maybe about like 50 to 100 people. Wow. I came to the United States when I was 3 with my family. And first we moved to Texas, and then after 9/11, we moved to New York City. And, spent most of my life in Brooklyn, except for the few years I was on active duty in the military. And eventually, I made my way right here where we are.
Well, welcome. We're thrilled to have you. So let me just ask you, do you refer to yourself as a Kashmiri or a Pakistani?
Kashmiri.
Kashmiri. Oh, interesting. So, and what happened post 9/11 that your family decided to move?
So one of the things that I really try to fight in my life is Islamophobia. And post 9/11, my family saw a lot of it. Mm-hmm. We were in Texas, and my parents and I, being fresh immigrants, all very Muslim names, accents, dressing Muslim, and it was tough for people to accept that. 9/11 had just happened, and the portrayal of Muslims on television, on the news and movies, it wasn't very positive, and people painted all Muslims with that giant paintbrush. And my parents got the brunt of it because they couldn't find work, and they were harassed outside. My mom couldn't wear a hijab without people calling her names. So we decided to move to New York City because of that.
Interesting. So you really have experienced it. So now you tell me that you grew up in Brooklyn, your formative years. So what was it like? What part of Brooklyn, and what was it like growing up in Brooklyn as a Muslim?
Well, I grew up on Ocean Avenue and Avenue K, right next to a synagogue. And we would play outside. We would do all the kid shenanigans. And I would see Jews every single day. And when we weren't there, I saw Jews in school. I was friends with people of all races, ethnicities, religions. And that's one of the best things about living in New York City and living in Brooklyn. You're friends with everybody. And you don't really know what somebody's background is unless I tell you, because everyone's just a friend. Everyone's just a person.
That's super, and that speaks well of New York City. So did you grow up in a religious household, and what branch of Islam did you or your parents practice?
It was religious. At times, it was a lot more religious than I liked. I am very laid back, laissez-faire, but my parents weren't that way. They were strict at times. I had to go to after-school stuff for the Quran, and then Sunday school for the Quran, learn about Islam and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. I myself I'm not super religious, and I'm Sunni. So there's Sunni and Shia, but I'm Sunni.
So I'm going to digress from where I thought I would go with this, but I'm really curious. During your religious education, as I'm sure many of your friends in Brooklyn had their religious Jewish education, preparing for a bar mitzvah, and so on. Did you learn anything, or did you hear anything about how Jews were treated in the Quran? Did that come up in your classes?
It did, but one of the issues is Jews were always painted as the villain when I was being taught stuff in school or even at home. It wasn't very positive stuff about Jews. And that's something I had an issue with even as a child. One of the reasons I'm not super religious now is I would constantly ask questions. And I know in Judaism, that's a fantastic thing, but in Islam, not so much. And I loved asking questions. I was very curious. I'm like, Mom, Dad, can you explain to me these things that don't make sense to me? And how come Judaism and Christianity came first and all of our stuff is based off of that? How do we know what's true? My parents didn't like it. And as you can imagine, religious parents who have been taught one thing their entire life, they were teaching us don't ask questions. And I couldn't do that. And when it came to stuff about Jews, I'm like, well, these are normal people. I'm, friends, very, very good friends in school with a lot of Jews. I see Jews on the street, and not all of them look how like people are describing. They don't have horns. They're not evil. They don't have a little devil's tail. They're just average people, and you won't know someone's Jewish unless they tell you. So the things I'm being taught by my family and by the scholars at these schools, I didn't agree with them. And I would ask questions, and that helped me, really break out of it.
Wow. Can I ask you about how old were you when this period of what I'll say questioning began?
Yeah, around about 10 years old.
Wow. Interesting. And what was your relationship like with your parents?
It was great. So they understood exactly how I operated. So the asking of questions, but also if I set my mind to it, I'm gonna do it. That was one of the issues when I told them I wanted to join the military. I had like a very strict call to duty. And I was like, I need to do this. I want to serve my country. America's fantastic. We do so much, and so much has been done for us, thanks to the United States. So I want to give back. I want to do my part, serve my country in the military. And I told them that when I was very young. I was about 15. Wow. And I told them, and I would tell them constantly, I'm like, hey, when I turn 17 or 18, I'm gonna join. And so they knew that they have to either love me or hate me, but I'm going to do what I want.
Wow, good for you. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I'm the youngest of 3. My sister is the oldest, and then my brother, the middle child, and then myself.
And how did they respond to your, what can I say, heresy, or at least questioning or disobedience? How did they respond to you?
So my siblings and I all grew up here, so we're very westernized. So they're a lot more accepting. They understand, things that go into it, like our personal experiences, our education, and then stuff we experience on social media and mainstream media. So they're open to it.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in the military?
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. That was my original dream job. It was a fantastic experience. I joined when I was 17. I brought my papers over for my family to look at, like a little contract, some information about the Army from the recruiter. I was like, hey, either I join now at 17 with like your parental signature, and then I could have a little head start on my military career, or I could wait till I'm 18 and then I'm going to join anyway. So they were like, all right, if you're going to join anyway, you've been talking about it for years, here you go. They signed off on my little papers. If you're under 18, you need a parent's signature, like a field trip. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Heck of a field trip.
That brought me over to basic training at Fort Jackson in South Carolina. Did that, and then went to Fort Lee in Virginia. I was a logistics specialist in my unit, but the long title for my job is Transportation Management Coordinator. The MOS code for like the military people out there is 88 November. So yeah, the 88 series is all logistics and transportation. So it was great. I loved it, and I met tons and tons of amazing people. People who had never met a Muslim, a person who had never met somebody from Kashmir or even Pakistan. And I was happy to represent myself, my family, and my community to them.
Can you tell us, I know you spent 3 years in the military and that you were a war veteran. So can you tell us where you went?
Yeah, absolutely. So they don't count as actual deployments because a deployment is 8 months, but it was very short training missions here and there all over the country, a little overseas, but nothing crazy.
Where were you overseas?
A little in Afghanistan.
That must have been an experience. So, as a Muslim from Kashmir, how were you treated, particularly in Afghanistan?
Oh, I didn't have to interact with anybody, so thankfully, I'm very fortunate for that.
Got it. Well, thank you for your service. So now I want to move on a little bit. How did you become involved in working towards better relationships between diverse communities, and what projects are you currently involved with?
Yeah, it started for me October 7th because I saw what was happening. And when I was seeing the news, I knew, hey, this is terrible. This is horrible. There's no way around it. Surely nobody could deny what's happening. And then I get on Instagram and people are saying it's fake. People are denying it despite the fact that the footage is out there and Hamas has taken credit for it. That really struck something in me. That call to service that I have, it has never gone away. And I feel that with events like this, I need to help do something. So I felt that, and my mind immediately went, okay, the interfaith events, interfaith work pre-October 7th was meaningless. It accomplished nothing. The second a conflict arises, the communities turned on each other. And imams cut ties with rabbis, and it was meaningless. Everything that we did, it was just fundraisers and dinners to help people make money. There was no actual connection behind it. So I wanted to create something that actually gives people connection and that we can use if there is a conflict, that we can still be friends and neighbors and coexist. So that really started it for me.
I'll say again, thank you for your service.
Of course, thank you.
So I'm just curious because you mentioned that the imams cut ties and so on. Was this, if you know, was this government dictated from the, Muslim community governments in the Middle East, or do you think it was spontaneous or individual decisions on the part of each and every imam?
It's definitely community driven.
Local community.
It's local community driven because I have imams constantly reach out to me and they tell me, hey, I agree with what you're saying and I wish we could partner with you for interfaith stuff and your organizations that you work with. But they can't because their constituency, their people that come to the mosques would abandon them. They would ostracize them. They would, I don't know what they would do besides that, but it could be terrible. These imams rely on their mosques and their congregations. So if they went against what the community wants, it could be detrimental to them. So it's definitely community driven. The people as a majority feel a certain way because of what they're seeing on the news and on social media, primarily on social media because that is more emotion based, less facts, more emotions. So that has really driven that.
So I'm just curious, isn't one of the functions of the imam to explicate the Quran, to educate? I mean, we have to have movers and shakers that can sway the community. Is it too risky for them to even attempt to change the minds of their members?
It's very risky. It's very risky. And our brains have evolved to really pick things out and do things that are easier. So the easiest thing for these imams to do is just to play it safe, to tell people what they want to hear, go along with the crowd, not ruffle any feathers, and just do their time and grow old. That's just what it is. It's really unfortunate that we don't have a lot of people standing up, but that's the hard thing to do.
Absolutely, which makes you all the more special. So we became acquaintances and acquainted through my position as chair of the United Nations NGO committee, End Antisemitism and Promote Peace. So when we first met, I went, wow, not just because of you, but I said, this is unusual. So I'm going to ask you, how do you recruit members to your cause, to your point of view? Because I'm going to assume, and I know it's always dangerous to assume, that for most of us, we will really want to make the world a better place that we inhabit, certainly for our generation and future generations. So how do you go about doing your work?
So it has to be two things. It has to be active and it has to be organic. So it's not something we can force, but we have to be actively looking for people who want to be a part of it. Because there's a lot of people competing for our attention. Right now, this is the attention economy. So many billion-dollar organizations are competing for our attention. And if we want people to join our cause as nonprofits, we have to really be trying to recruit people. And it can't be something that's forced. It has to be more organic. We have to find people who actually care about it because they're the ones that'll stay with us in the long run. They'll help us. They'll have their friends on board. They'll have their families on board. And word of mouth, in my opinion, does significantly more than social media.
Interesting, because social media is all around us. So my question about how did you become involved, you already told us about this. So how does your family feel now about your work, ending anti-Semitism, promoting harmony, taking the position that you do in terms of Islamophobia? I mean, what is your relationship with your parents? And have your parents and siblings' thinking evolved in any way?
Their thinking has absolutely evolved. My relationship has never been stronger with my family. And it's just, family comes first. Okay. And no matter what your family believes, you still love them. And I find myself correcting my family a lot during our little gatherings. I see my siblings every weekend because we're all doing our little things during the week. So during the weekend, we get to see each other. And if they say something that I don't agree with, I call them out on it. And I don't attack them in any way. I explain using positive emotions and facts. So I don't want to put them down because what they're seeing on social media on their side is what they consider to be the truth. It might not be the fact or truth in reality, but when it exists in their heads, it's their truth. So when we want to change that, we have to approach that very positively. So we let them know they're heard, they're seen, and then we have to let them know that what they're saying is factually inaccurate. And we can show them through actual sources, through the internet, what actually happened. So one of my family members was talking about how Israel is a colonial state, they're colonizers. And then I had to explain that that's us. That's us here. This isn't our land. And we're first generation immigrants. We were all born in Pakistan and we came here. 90% of the people in the United States weren't originally from here genetically. Mm-hmm. Unless you're Native American, you can't say anything about colonization because we're still hundreds of years later directly benefiting from it. And it's a sad reality, but it's something that's been a part of humanity for thousands of years. People immigrate, people colonize, and that's just what human beings do. We spread around. And that's why a lot of us have very diverse genetic backgrounds because we traveled. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's just how it works. So that's one of the examples of where I call them out. I let them know, and then I try to do it in a way where it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings.
Okay. So time is moving swiftly. So let me ask you, this is what I think is an important question. What is the most important thing that you think needs to be done to fight anti-Semitism and to fight Islamophobia, at least in the United States? We'll start there.
The biggest thing that I keep saying to everybody is we need to start by listening to each other. So much of our time is spent yelling at people, whether it's in person or online. And we're doing a lot more yelling than we are listening. And listening is the very first step to being empathetic. So when you can hear somebody and you can recognize that's an outside voice coming from not within my head and not from a television, but from another human being, when we listen to them, we can empathize with them. We can put ourselves in their shoes. And it goes to people doing the protests on each side. They believe that what they're doing is the right thing. And they're led to believe that on each side. And I think the truth always lies somewhere in the middle. And if we can listen to each other, if we can empathize to each other, we can really put a major dent in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. And I know Islamophobia is an issue, but I really try to fight anti-Semitism because speaking strictly objectively and by the numbers, it is a major, major, major issue. Hate crimes for anti-Semitism are skyrocketing. They're happening every single day, and the FBI has reported it. It's disgusting how people are just okay with accepting anti-Semitism. And if we put ourselves in people's shoes, if we empathize with them, listen to them, like the survivors of the Holocaust, their stories, we can see that, hey, we need to take a step back from the violence and the hateful rhetoric. We need to just listen to each other.
So I'm going to skip ahead again because of time is fleeting. We all living in New York, we read all about the protests at Columbia University, the major, quote, best, unquote, universities in the United States. I think, personally, some of these children or useful idiots are paid provocateurs. That's my personal opinion. But the administration of these universities did not help because they conflated free speech with harm to its students. And so there is a movement. I don't think it's going to happen, but at least there's talk about taking away the university's tax-free status. What would you think of that outcome for universities? Because there's the freedom of speech argument, which is what they'll make, and then there's the safety issue and the Title IX protection of all the students, regardless of race, religion, et cetera, et cetera.
I think our Constitution is extremely important. And our rights granted to us from the Constitution, like the freedom of speech, are very, very, very important to the fabric that holds this country together. And so many other countries have based their Constitution off of ours. And it is because the United States does such an amazing job. So we have to be very careful when we restrict people's freedoms. But the issue is we live in reality. We don't live in a fantasy world where people can just say and do whatever they want.
So do you think that we can, because again, in terms of the protests, can we separate anti-Semitism from anti-Zionism?
I don't think we can separate them. I think anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism because Zionism is a core part of Judaism, despite what people say. And the horrible thing is that people say that they're okay with Jews. As long as Jews conform to those people's reality and their rules, it's horrible. And that's not how anybody operates. Jews should be allowed to have a homeland, considering that there are dozens of Muslim countries and Arab countries. Those people have homes. Jews need a home country as well. And they just have the one. And it is about the size of New Jersey, which to people is mind-blowing. My siblings didn't know that. My siblings thought it was probably the size of the entire East Coast of the United States. And I'm like, no, dude, it's the size of Jersey. We've driven down to Florida several times, and we drive through Jersey in just a few hours. That's the size of the country that people are fighting over. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism at the core. Jews shouldn't have to exist in a way that agrees with how other people think they should exist. They should exist with their culture and their religion.
Thank you. So as time is drawing down, I'm going to ask you, what is the one thing that you would like our audience to remember from our conversation today?
I would like them to remember that the person on the other side of the screen is a person, and despite how they might act, they have feelings and they have families, and some of them are doing this because of hate and hatred in their heart. But there are many out there who are just led astray through fake news, false narratives, through emotional manipulation. And those are the people we need to reach out to and to be empathetic to.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you very, very much for doing the work that you do, for founding the American Peace Committee, for being a member of our NGO committee, End Antisemitism and Promote Peace. And I hope we are both, and you in particular, are very, very successful, all of us recruiting more and more people to our goal of peace throughout the world. So thank you again for joining us. And so with that, let me end this podcast. Thank you for tuning into this. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. I appreciate my guest, Dan Khan, for sharing some insights. And be sure to subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations. Until next time, take care and be well.